Hello, so this is why you're less productive during the summer and how summer makes you lazy, right? And if you're like a student, like a teenager, and you're in college summer break, or you're in high school and you're in summer break, and you want to become an entrepreneur and you want to start a business online, but you're not productive enough and you don't work on your business enough, this is the perfect video for you. And this has worked for me personally, and it's also worked to my friends who I've given this to. And yeah, it's basically like foolproof. It's completely foolproof. And I'm going to explain everything right now. And so, why are you so unproductive during the summer? It's because of routine, right? And there's two ways that this applies. Number one, school keeps you busy. And number two, school makes you routinize your life, right? So, when you're going to school, I'm assuming that you're in high school and American high school specifically, but obviously this applies to college and, different countries' high school as well. But you're forced to go to school 5 days a week at consistent times every single day, other than holidays and whatever, right? So school makes you routinize your life, and you have to go to school on those days at those specific times, right? So whether you want to get up or not, you're gonna have to plan your sleep accordingly. You're gonna have to plan the work that you do, like the homework that you do accordingly. You're gonna have to account for deadlines. School makes you routinize your life and it gives you your deadlines, and you're not ready to be your own boss because school does that all for you right now, right? You're not accountable enough. Like you can't make your own rules and then expect yourself to follow them because school made you the rules and you just followed school's rules, but you've never made your own rules, right? So you're not used to being your own boss. You're not used to forcing yourself to do stuff whether you want to or not when the deadline is not absolutely necessary, right? So if you have a school deadline, then you have to get the work in by that deadline. But in real life, it doesn't work like that. And also, school keeps you busy, right? And so during the summer, you have a ton of free time. And guess what? With all of this free time, you're going to spend all of that extra time on bad habits and addictions and stuff like that. And addictions they most commonly arise, and they're the most common when you're bored. That's the main cause of addictions and bad habits and stuff like that, right? When you're bored, that's when you get the highest urges to, start playing video games, start playing, I don't know, Fortnite Season 3. And that's going to lead to you wasting time, not only wasting time, so that time is not going towards anything productive, it's not going to your business, but also you're not going forwards, but also you're going backwards, right? You're losing progress. And a couple examples of this are if you're watching like social media and short form content, that lowers your attention span, right? And since you're having a bunch of dopamine going into your brain when you're doing video games, social media, all of that stuff, and you're constantly stimulating your brain for the whole day because you're doing these bad habits and addictions, then your dopamine baseline, like the amount of dopamine that you get during the day, it's going to fluctuate so much. You're going to have so much higher dopamine spikes throughout the day. I'm not going to go in depth on it, but basically, you definitely do not want to have unhealthy sources of dopamine like social media and video games and unnatural, unhealthy sources like that consistently. And so now you're probably wondering what the solution is. And the solution is that you need to routinize your life, obviously, right? Because routine is the reason why you're so unproductive during the summer, the lack of routine. And so when you don't routinize your life, you have tons of free time and you have easy access to social media and video games and stuff like that and other bad habits. And then you expect yourself to consciously decide to take the hard path instead of working on your business instead. You're faced with this kind of option, with this crossroads, and you have video games and instant gratification and dopamine on one side. And then on the other side, you have the hard path. Obviously, in the moment, you're just going to take the easier path that's much more attractive than the harder path if you don't actually have a routine in place. And if you routinize your life, then you can keep yourself busy with many productive things. Like you can work on a business if you have one, if you're starting one. You can pick up a summer job. You can learn like many things. I don't know, social skills, business concepts. You can learn from good entrepreneurs, all of that. And then you can also read, right? Healthy source of dopamine and things to fill your time that aren't, unproductive bad habits and addictions. And then you're no longer going to be bored because of how busy you are with these things that you're going to force yourself to do. And preferably, you're going to want to have stuff that forces you to do them, like a summer job, right? You can't just not go to your summer job one day. So preferably, you're going to want to have things that actually give you some responsibility and where you're actually forced to do stuff. Because once again, right now, you're not ready to become your own boss, right? You're not used to that. And then you're no longer going to be bored. And since you're not bored, you're obviously not going to have bad habits and addictions because that trigger, that reason for the addictions and the bad habits, now that's gone. But it's not that easy. It's not that obvious, right? Just because you wrote down on your schedule, work on your business for 2 hours straight and have complete focus and don't get distracted at all and don't stop working, it doesn't mean that you're going to follow it, right? You're not just going to follow your schedule perfectly just because you wrote it down, right? You're human. And so the solution to this is that you need to make tiny incremental changes every single day to make the change from the bad schedule the bad habits, the addiction, stuff like that, to the good schedule where you do a bunch of productive things throughout the day. And consistency is key, right? It's the most important thing. Running off emotions is not consistent, right? Consistency is so important because if you do have one really good day and then for the next week you don't do anything and then you have another really good day after that 1 week, then that's not going to be nearly as effective as if you have a bunch of decent days where, you play a little bit of video games, you do a little bit of the bad habits, but also you work on that every day and you get better at that every day. And you're working on your business for a good part of the day also. So consistency is key because having a bunch of decent days is better than really rarely and occasionally having some really good days and the rest of the days being bad. And this is really important, you need to stop running off emotions, right? I put 2 exclamation points there for a reason because emotions are inconsistent, right? They constantly fluctuate and your results will be inconsistent and constantly fluctuate if your inputs are inconsistent. So your emotions, right? So if you're running off your emotions, then what you're inputting into your life, what you're inputting into your business is a bunch of inconsistency and constant fluctuation. And then your output, your results are also going to be the same thing, right? Because what you put in is what you get out. And so progress can be as slow as you want. You just want to make sure that it always goes up and it never goes down, just consistently goes up. And I'm going to get onto this graph in a second. Another thing I just want to note really quickly is that running off of emotions hasn't gotten you good results already, right? Like if running off emotions would have been effective for you, and I'm assuming that you're running off emotions right now because you're watching this video. If running off of emotions would have gotten you good results in business, like if you would have made a successful business, if you would have been productive, if you wouldn't have done those bad habits, if you were running off your emotions, then you would have gotten those results already, but you haven't gotten them yet. So obviously running off your emotions isn't the right way to do it. It's not effective. So here's how your emotions look. They go up and down, and your progress is going to be inconsistent because your emotions are inconsistent, right? So here's what progress looks like when you're running off your emotions. So basically a bunch of fluctuation, it goes up and down and up and down. It has a bunch of changes, right? But consistency, as long as you keep going up and some days you can stay stagnant, you can stay the same. But every day, if you try to improve at least like 1% better every single day, then you're only going to keep going up. And no matter how slow that growth is, you're only going to go up and you're never going to go down. And that's the most ideal. So you want to run off consistency where you always, always, always keep going up and up and up and up and you never go down. And if you have, one bad day, because obviously you're still human, if you have one bad day where you go down a little bit, just keep focusing on either the bare minimum, which is just staying at the same level, like staying at the same level of progress. So having just as good as a schedule or being just as disciplined and productive, or more preferably just be 1% better every day and keep being consistent and keep working on the goal. And so how can you be more consistent is probably your next question that you have. Just watch the first video on this channel. I've covered it a lot more in depth and it's going to be extremely helpful for you. It's an amazing video. I spent multiple hours working on, the mind map to explain that video, and it's a really good video. I highly recommend that you check it out. And yeah, that's basically it. And if the entrepreneur lifestyle is really attractive to you, you would love to take a flight wherever you want. You'd love to live wherever you'd want. You hate the idea of, working under a boss in a 9 to 5 in a job that you hate and coming home super tired. And you would love to give a bunch of money to your parents in order to retire them and so that they don't have to constantly worry about bills and stuff. If that sounds appealing to you, make sure you check out the first link in the description below. It will change your life. I promise you. Just check it out right now. It is amazing. So click the link in the description below if you're interested. And you can just check it out for a minute or two, a couple minutes. And if it's not for you, if you don't like it, you can just close off the tab. No problem. And yeah, thank you. Bye.